Dr. Jaget Babu on things we have to do for research. And this is a very, very important and relevant topic which everybody requires for continuing research, who are engaged in continuing research. So I welcome Dr. Jagat Babu for this talk. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. On behalf of the research cell, I would like to this talk, an initiative of the research cell. The inaugural talk was given by the principal, Dr. Neelakandan, last week, and this is the second talk scheduled by the research cell. Rather bit disappointing, and see only very few staff members in attendance, just about 5 or 8 male staff members and thrice the number female staff members, and maybe have to start. We can't wait for it. So this is that the research is looking for something that you can see. It may exist or not. And the statement is rather humorous. It says that if you steal from one author, it is a plagiarism. And if you steal from many others, it is research. This is a photograph. It shows a man climbing along the edge of a steep and very high mountain. And there's also the title at the top. It reads, A Pursuit of Research. So what is the link between the title and the photograph? So if you apply your mind, you'll be able to appreciate the fact that doing research is not easy. It's rather difficult. So that is the explanation of this photograph. There are more BTech holders, more MTech holders than PhD holders. So that bespeaks the difficulty associated with doing research. There are some things that you have to do, that you can do to make your research enjoyable and successful. I have put together 6 points here. So this is what I want to share with the audience here. 6 points that will help you do research successfully. So the first point is learn to evaluate critically previous work, learn basic measurement tools and techniques of your field. The third point is seek opportunities to do research. And the fourth one, inspire yourself with relevant activity. Fifth, exercise engineering judgment. And 6, don't rush to judgment. So these 6 points I will amplify here in about 20 minutes. So that's the time given me by the research cell, although I asked for 40 minutes, but they said you must limit your talk to 20 minutes. So the first point is the ability to find out what has been done before and to evaluate the previous work. So when you start research, do literature survey. So the first ability you need is to find out what work has been done before in your chosen field of work in the research area, so that you don't have to waste time duplicating the work that someone else has done. So how can you do that? How can you find out what has been done before? So there are 2 points. First, you can keep up to date with the latest research, so the latest journal papers in your chosen field. And secondly, you can attend conferences and seminars. You can also discuss informally with those people who are working in your research area. Once you are able to find out what work has been done before, then you will need to evaluate the importance of that work. So you may know, you may have knowledge about the work that has gone before, what work has been done before, but unless you're able to evaluate the importance of that work, there is little value. So how can you evaluate the foregoing work or the work that has been done previously in your field of area? You can ask a few questions. I've listed 4 here. So when you read the journal papers that pertain to your field of work, you can ask a few questions like this. So what is the focus of the problem? What problem is being studied? Is the problem important? Is it important? Is it why or why not? So what are the main results obtained from the work? and what research method has been used in obtaining the results of the previous work. What are the assumptions made by the author or authors? Are the assumptions realistic? Then how sensitive are the results to the assumptions? Then you can describe the similarities and differences of any paper that you read as compared to other papers. And finally, you have to ask and you also have to write down what knowledge did you gain from your literature review? What did you learn? It's not just enough to ask these questions orally. You also have to write down. So writing down will deepen your understanding of the knowledge of the previous work. So that was the first point, ability to find out what has been done before, and then you also need to develop the ability to evaluate, to assess the importance of that work. We'll move on to the second point. The second point is that when you do research, you may have to employ some special tools, special tools like discipline-specific devices or the procedures. If you're doing research in certain area, you may have the opportunity to use electron microscope, or else you may have to use a large multiprocessor, high-performance computer system. So these are the specialized tools. The disadvantage of this is that you still have to use them to make progress in your research work, but don't expect anyone to teach you. So the main point, what I have to say is that it is self-teaching. You have to learn these things on your own. You can't expect your research teacher or research supervisor to explain how to use these devices. So you are on your own. You have to learn these things on your own. You also need to develop the ability to choose the appropriate tool. So there may be several available. So there may be analytic modeling available, then simulation or direct measurements. So you need to have the ability. So which tool is most appropriate for my research method, for my research work? So that you have to develop. Again, you will be on your own. You can seek the assistance of your research supervisor, but don't expect any. Engineers deal with the real objects and practical ideas. So during their interaction with real objects and practical ideas, they have to make measurements. If you are going to do experimental work, then measurements are inevitable. You have to make measurements. And when you do make measurements, you know that there will be errors. Errors will creep into your measurements. And every time you repeat a measurement, it will not be the same. You take one measurement at one instant of time and repeat that after an instant of time, and so on. You'll see that there is variation among all the readings that you take down. So you have to deal with variability. The sources of errors are two: systematic errors and then random errors. You can analyze the reasons and also the results of the errors, so that will have a bearing on your research result. So how do you deal with errors and variability in the readings that you take from your measurements? So there we have statistical techniques. So you need to have a knowledge about these statistical methods to express the metrics of central tendency like average or median, then standard deviation. Then you have to deal with variability. There may be many alternatives, two or three alternatives. So which alternative will you use? So you need to again study statistical methods. So it can be very impossible to assess the value of engineering research results without the right application of these basic mathematical skills like statistical techniques. So that was the second point. The second point is that learn to use specialized tools, that is self-learning mode. The third point is that research is always learned by doing research. So you can't learn research by reading a textbook or by watching a video. You need the practical hands-on experience. So research is almost always learned by doing research. But during the BTech years, there is not much opportunity to give you an exposure in doing research. MTech level, you may have some opportunity in doing an MTech project, a sponsored project, or associating it with your professor who might be doing research. So apart from that, there is not much opportunity to avail of practical hands-on experience on research. The one way you can develop that experience is to write a proposal to work on a specific project. Uh, in case the research cell manages to land a consultancy project or something like that, then you can make a contribution to writing a research proposal to work on that specific project. So that will give you some experience. You can write a research proposal that will provide you hands-on practical skills. So only by doing this, you can gain a deeper knowledge of the subject you have chosen to do research in. So that was the third point. So research is learned by doing research. You may read a textbook about a research method. It may explain a promising new research, not be able to is this research method appropriate for my work? So that is what the book explains. You can use this research method, but without the practical hands-on training, you will not be able to evaluate the research method proposed by the book is fitting or appropriate to your area of work. So that is the third point. Research is learned by doing research. Practical hands-on training is essential, and that is more preferred than knowledge given by textbooks. The fourth point. So most of you who have done research have experienced that halfway through, you feel that you can't make any progress. You feel stuck. You feel lost and without direction. Even your research guide may not be able to help you. You may have the vague feeling that you want to produce something novel or make a significant contribution, but you feel that you're stuck, you just can't make any progress. So this is where many quit. So I know many people who have given up on their research work. So when they came up against this situation where they can't make any forward progress, many have stopped, many have quit. So if you find yourself in this situation, what can you do? There are two things. One is that you have to do a task or a project relevant to your area of interest and have a specific goal in pursuing that task. You can obtain this task or project from a paper that bears on your subject. You can redo the research method. You can redo the experiment. Simulation, you can redo that simulation. The idea is that when you do that, you will develop an intuitive feel for the subject, and that will give you more confidence and motivation. But don't assume that it will lead to or a paper. It will only inspire you with more motivation and confidence. Don't expect to give results. Second thing you can do is that you can meet with your research supervisor or other research scholars, have a lengthy discussion. So you can share your difficulties. You can say that I've done so much work, but now I find myself stuck here. I can't make any forward progress. So what should I do? So just meet with your research guide and share your difficulties and problems with research scholars and so forth. They may be able to give you some idea. But anyway, the point I'm making is that don't give up, don't quit when you find yourself not being able to make any progress. I've given two important pointers, the relevant to your project. Take the idea from a research paper and just simply repeat what has been explained in that paper. And secondly, meeting with a research guide, so that can stimulate new ideas in your mind. The fifth point is that during your work, you may use softwares, you may use simulation softwares. So don't rely on the results yielded by those machines. I have used ANSYS. Don't just rely on those results given by machines. You have to exercise your engineering judgment. You have to develop an inner feel and evaluate if the result given by the machine, by the simulation software is right or not. So you have to develop your intuition and you need to have engineering judgment to assess if the results given by the machine are valid or not. So how can you do that? If you have analytical equations, you can perform simple estimates of the results, and then you can compare the results given by your calculation with the results given by the software, so that you will know the order of magnitude, whether it is whether there's a huge gap between the two results or not. The second way to assess the result given by machine is to verify the results using two different methods. So you can compare the results of your computer simulation, the measurement made on an existing system, or even to an analytical model. Anyway, you have to evaluate both good design and bad design that help you understand which method gives the more results or which method is more fruitful. Staying on this topic, I have to say one more point. Don't be afraid of failure. So keep on experimenting. You will fail, but uh, don't be taken aback by the specter of failure. Without failure, you will not be able to experience real success. So analyze the causes of failure more from analyzing the reasons of failure than by experiencing instant success. So fail, you have to fail. You have to experience failure a few times. Only then you will learn how to move forward along the path to reach success. So don't be afraid of failure. Without lessons learned from failure, you will not be able to learn how to reach the goal of success. So point. The sixth point, the final point is that don't rush to a judgment. So there may be many solutions or ideas proposed by your friends or from literature, or even research supervisors can give you these ideas. You may feel on first sight that these solutions or ideas are bad, but don't reject them. What you have to do is to assess the feasibility of those solutions or ideas. So it may so happen that the research guide or the research scholar may know more than the research guide. Okay, so the research guide must not feel rather inferior if the research scholar shows superiority in knowledge, and the research scholar must respect diversity. Okay? Because there may be more than one different equally valid ways to look at the same problem. So research guide must also respect the input of the research scholar. The solutions proposed by the research scholar can be different from that of the research guide. But in spite of that, both sides must respect diversity. And the research scholar and the research guide must also engage in diverse modes of learning and thinking. So some of the diverse modes of learning are intuition, inner feeling, then experimentation, the beaten track, that is working on an apparent tangent. You're departing from the usual way of working. You can also do daydreaming. So all these will lead to a more innovative solutions and ideas. So if you always work along the normal path, the normal linear thought process, you may not be able to strike upon an innovative or a new solution. But therefore, you have to depart from the beaten track. In other words, you have to respect diversity. Don't rush to a judgment. Be slow to making judgment. Look for the plus points in all the ideas put forward during your research. So these are the 6 points. I will go over them once again. So the first point is develop the ability to find out what work has been done previously in your area of research. And more importantly, you also should have the ability to evaluate the importance of that work. Secondly, when you do research, you may have to use some tools or specialized devices, learn basic measurement tools and techniques of your field. Then third point, research is almost always learned by doing research with hands-on experience. So seek opportunities to do research. So research is not learned from books. And then fourth point, when you feel that you can't make any progress, that you are stuck down, you're bogged down, and then what you have to do is to seek inspiration. You can inspire yourself with relevant activity. papers. Just simply repeat the word mentioned in the journal paper, and then don't rely on results given by softwares or machines. You have to exercise your intuition. You have to exercise your engineering judgment, and don't rush to judgment when an idea or a solution is proposed. Look at the invisible feasible idea hidden in that proposal or judgment. So be slow to making a judgment. Don't just reject ideas on the first side. On the first side, I'd like to give an example about the first point. I said that you must know what work has been done before, and then you should also develop the ability to assess that work. So there is an example in history. In 1850s, the leading engineers and the scientists of that day made this statement that it is impossible to make a flying machine, impossible to make an aircraft. Set in the 1850s, the foremost engineers and technologists, scientists of that day made this assessment. So if you were a research scholar of that time and if you read the literature of that time, you may also believe that it is impossible to make a flying machine. And you know that 50 years later, down the road, the first aircraft was built. So my point is that don't believe what you read. So that is said in a positive sense, negative. In other words, you have to look for something that the author has missed, that the author may have not have understood in his work. So there you have an opportunity. So if you are able to find out what the author has missed, then you have a door open. You can walk in right through. You can make some that area. These are the 6 points. I'd like to give a brief warning. These 6 points will not guarantee you a PhD degree. They are necessary, but they are not adequate of themselves. You need to do more than this. What you can do without these 6 points. So here you are, all the 6 points. If you like to ask me anything, I'll be more than glad to answer your questions. How much time did I take? 20 minutes? Did I go over time? Rajaram sir, did I go over time?
No, I think it will be more interactive.
I was given only 20 minutes. I asked for 40 minutes. I said only 20 minutes.
We want more interaction. So you can ask questions. Important. Ask questions. For those who are doing already PhD problems, really you can share that with an also discussion.
It's easy to remember all these 6 points. Not really. You can ask me. If I know the answer, I can tell. Not I have to do something. That strikes your mind. Sample question again. Sample question. Exercise intelligent judgment other than play on machines. What I meant was that in your research, you will be using simulation software, say ANSYS. Okay, you will be doing an analysis. And so will give some of some research. And then don't rely, don't depend on that research given by the software. Don't actually give a score. You have to validate that research. You can also go for depending on the input given, the output, and the input. You have to exercise the extent that we can do some simple estimates, back in calculation, and sometimes it is a wide gap between the two. Who can extend it? You may also have to validate the response given by the machine. When someone has a given model, how you can extend it. Someone may have an experiment before got experience all of these things during your work. Which one was the one that a few months I really found the first one very significant around the diagram issues. The exercise for Indian. One more question and then I can close. One more question. It's an opportunity. Don't think it's something already. And expensive. What I suggest is that search and express. Someone else may have done a similar work, and the results may be there. So, somewhere the results is given by simulation, the results is in the
Yeah, the same question. One of the problem faces our area. Some of the leading members they don't accept it. They expect validate the test result. Otherwise, they don't do.
in that case,
In that situation, they may not have a lab facility or hardware or whatever. They are not able to test.
there is a paradox in that. If we have to do experiments, why do you do simulation in the first place? Experiments can be expensive. Facilities may not be available. Are you satisfied with the answer?